The following letter was received by the Office of Anomaly Safety on the morning of September 12th from a 13-year-old girl named Nancy Gray, resident of Zone 9. Her handwriting was uneven, the paper smudged and torn near the edges. The envelope was postmarked 3 days before it arrived. By the time it reached us, the events she described were already over. Dear whoever gets this, there's something wrong in our house. I don't know how to say it. It came a week ago, I think. It's hard to remember when exactly. I just know that one night it wasn't here, and the next night it was. It doesn't make sounds. It just stands there. Sometimes in the hallway, sometimes at the door of my room. I can't really look at it for long. When I try to, my eyes slide away, like I'm not supposed to see it. My mom and dad see it too, but they keep saying it's my brother. I don't have a brother. I've counted so many times. It was always the three of us, but now there are four. Nancy goes on to describe how her parents first noticed the figure one night near the living room. She said it stood by the family portrait, facing the wall, motionless. Her father thought it was an intruder, but when he tried to confront it, he couldn't seem to make out its face. Her parents both described a kind of pressure in the air, a heaviness that made them dizzy when they tried to focus. They got confused to the point where they thought it was just their imagination, but she could still see him, feel his presence. It convinced my parents that it was part of our family. Mom said maybe it's my brother, back from the hospital. I told her, I don't have one. She just looked confused. Then she said, Nancy, don't be mean. You know he's sick. From that night on, the thing began to appear more frequently, always near doorways, corners, and dark hallways. It never entered her room completely, but Nancy said she could feel it watching her as she slept. Her letter mentioned its stillness more than once. It doesn't blink. It doesn't even breathe right. Over the next several days, her parents began to act strangely. They started setting an extra plate at the dinner table. They began speaking to him without ever facing him. Her father even bought some clothes, saying he might need something to wear around the house again. When Nancy tried to tell her teacher, the school contacted her parents. Her mother explained that Nancy's brother had a disability that kept him from attending school and that she had been confused lately. After that, her parents stopped letting her out of the house alone. I think it likes when they talk about it, she wrote. Every time they call it my brother, it moves a little closer. It's learning how to smile. It's trying to look like us. Nancy began to notice subtle changes. Her parents' eyes looked duller. They stopped eating together. They slept less. She said her mother had started sitting beside the creature on the couch at night, staring blankly at the TV with it. Their neighborhood pets began to vanish. Nancy wrote that after the pets started disappearing, she tried to tell her neighbors what she thought was happening. She went door to door one afternoon, explaining that something had entered their home, something pretending to be her brother, but her parents followed close behind, smiling tightly, apologizing for her episodes. They told the neighbors Nancy had been under a lot of stress, that she was seeing things. One neighbor even offered to check in on her now and then, but when they came by the next morning, her mother told them Nancy wasn't feeling well and shouldn't have visitors for a while. From that point on, Nancy said the neighbors began to look at her differently. She wrote that the creature seemed to enjoy this. The behavior of the neighbors seemed strange at first, but after investigation we found out that the Gray family had only moved into the town a few years ago, and they were known for living quietly and without much contact. They didn't attend local gatherings, rarely spoke to neighbors, and were known mostly as polite but private. So when Nancy began to knock on doors, few truly knew what normal looked like for that family. Most assumed it was just a household issue, stress, illness, or isolation, and when the family stopped answering the door altogether, no one thought to question it. The creature seemed to understand this. The less attention the Greys drew, the safer it remained. It's possible that the anomaly was exploiting that very quiet. She claimed she saw her brother outside once, just standing under the streetlight, watching her window. He didn't move when the light flickered out, but when it came back on, he was gone. I tried calling the police, she wrote, but my parents took my phone. They said it upsets him when I talk about him like that. They said if I don't stop, he might take me away. The letter ends abruptly. The handwriting becomes uneven, trembling near the end. For the past few nights, he's been standing in the hallway just watching me. He doesn't move, doesn't speak. I try to close my eyes, but I can feel him there. I heard the Office of Anomaly Safety helps people when strange things like this happen. That's why I'm writing to you. Last night, he wasn't in the hallway anymore. He was standing at the foot of my bed. He didn't move for 11 hours. I couldn't sleep at all. Please come soon." The letter ends there, but investigators found something else in the envelope. A small folded piece of lined paper that wasn't mentioned in her message. On it was a list written in pencil. Mom, Dad, Nancy. Next to those names, faintly erased, was a fourth. A single word, written and rubbed out so many times, it had torn through the page. We believe this was due to the fact that the creature was continuously trying to establish influence over Nancy like it did with her parents. That may also be the reason why it watched her for hours on end. Unfortunately, the Office of Anomaly Safety receives hundreds of letters every week, and by the time our response team reached the Gray residence, it was already too late. Agents discovered signs of struggle. There was no evidence of a fourth resident in any records. However, the home displayed clear signs of what we classify as a presence-type anomaly. A blood trail led from the living room through the back door into a clearing near the tree line. There, the agents discovered the remains of 3 individuals: Nancy, her mother Claire, and her father Davis. The entity was near unrecognizable. It was described as shifting between human and inhuman forms, as if struggling to maintain the guise it had worn for too long. The entity was neutralized shortly after. This incident marks the first confirmed case of a presence-type anomaly invading a family residence. Previously, such anomalies manifested only as background intrusions, entities observed at isolated places. Direct household infiltration had not been documented before this case. While we cannot be certain, our field investigators believe that pretender-class anomalies, those capable of mimicking or rewriting identities, may be evolving. Over the past year, public awareness campaigns have led to fewer successful hunts for these entities. Many pretenders may now be starving, desperate, and adapting new survival behaviors. It is possible this brother was once a pretender who, unable to maintain its disguise, decayed into a presence, a being that cannot lie, only exist, and feed on acknowledgement. Current OAS research is focused on Nancy herself, or rather, what made her mind resistant to the anomaly's influence for as long as it was. Field analysts believe the handwritten list found in her envelope may have played a crucial role. Written affirmations of memory, especially those tied to names, appear to ground victims in a consistent version of reality. In her case, the act of writing seemed to preserve her awareness. We urge all residents to take the following precautionary steps immediately. Write down the names of every person who lives in your home. Keep this list visible on your refrigerator, your bathroom mirror, or beside your bed. Read it once every day. Pretender and presence-type anomalies have not yet been observed to read or comprehend written language. If at any point you notice someone in your home not named on your list, or if someone insists that they have always lived with you, contact your nearest Office of Anomaly Safety branch immediately. Do not confront the entity directly. Do not attempt to reason with it. Above all, do not allow it to see that you've realized it doesn't belong. Dusk Broadcast signing off. Stay tuned. Stay safe.